I think. There we go. Hello, hello. So excited to be here live on a Friday, not my usual time. But that's good. It's fun to change things up. We're going to be diving in just a moment. I want to give people a chance to join in. We are talking about hiring mistakes that drive good people away. So we'll get started in just a moment here, and then we are going to dive in. All right, so today is for anybody who has struggled building a team. If you can't seem to attract the kind of team members that you really need, or you get people and they're not kind of acting the way you'd like them to, or you don't have enough resumes from the right kind of people, or maybe you aren't sure which resumes or which applicants are really going to work out. Maybe you've kind of been burned in the past. You've hired people and it didn't really work out as you hope. So today I want to give you a few key mistakes to avoid that actually drive the good people away. So when we're hiring, we want to have key things in our process, in our job descriptions that attract the kind of people who are really going to make a difference for us. And we also want things that repel people who we shouldn't essentially be wasting our time on, so that we aren't interviewing people. It is very time consuming to hire well, but it is 100% worth it because the cost of making a bad hire is even higher, right? So it might cost $5,000 or so in time, energy, or hiring a professional to make a good hire. Making a bad hire is probably a $70,000 mistake or a $100,000 mistake. The costs of a bad hire are really huge because, one, you have to redo the hiring process. Two, they've usually done some damage in the time of being there. So you have to fix that. Three, you had to onboard them, and now you're going to have to onboard somebody else. So there's lots and lots of expenses, and then there's the opportunity cost. You needed them to do something, and that thing is not really done the way you needed it to do. Okay, so let's dive into my tips today, which are some mistakes I want you to avoid. Here's one: posting vague or outdated job descriptions that kind of attract the wrong or just not the right applicants, right? Your job description is, I want you to think of your job description you're posting as an advertisement. It has a headline. It shouldn't just be, something completely boring that sounds like everybody else. Your headline of your job description should be like a dog whistle to the right kind of people. It should call out a certain type of person, not just the title of the job position, right? And then the description, you should think of it like writing an ad. I have a hiring guide that I share with my clients. I might be willing to share it with you if you reach out. Where we go into all the different parts of that job description, treating it really like an ad, how to really fill it out so it's attracting the right people. Here's another one: focusing too much on credentials and not enough on fit. So this one, I saw a post the other day on LinkedIn. It was a shared article from Sean Hale. Shout out to Sean Hale, whose posts I almost always agree with. And on first glance, I didn't agree with this article at all, because the article said why you should hire for skills. And I don't usually recommend hiring first and foremost for skills. I recommend hiring first and foremost for team fit, the kind of person you want to hire. I teach folks to create guiding principles for their organizations, and we want guiding principle fit. And then we check for skills. But this article was actually saying hire for skills over credentials, right? So we are really way past hiring for credentials, right? Somebody's degree does not mean that they're going to be a great fit for this. So definitely don't focus on credentials. First and foremost, focus on fit, right? If you're trying to hire an A player, are they an A player? Are they a high performance team member just in general? Does their way of showing up and behaving at work align with how you want your entire team to be showing up and behaving at work? That's what guiding principles are all about. And then if all that jives and lines up, do they have the skills already to do the job that you're looking to get done? Skills, for me is kind of like the last thing we check, because skills can usually, an A player can usually fill in any skill gaps really quickly. And in some cases, it makes sense to hire the person who has all the skills and experience we need right away. In other situations, it's actually a better deal for us to hire someone who's going to grow into it. We might get a better deal. We might hire kind of fewer bad habits, right? So that's another way to approach it. But definitely don't focus too much on credentials. Okay. How your hiring process goes. I encourage you to make your hiring process humane. It is a reflection of the relationship that you're going to have. And so often people are using kind of outdated, rigid hiring processes that don't necessarily treat people very well. So ask somebody, if you know somebody who's recently been in the job search process, ask them what their experience was. What made them want to work someplace? What made them not want to work someplace? So think about using a process that identifies the right candidates but doesn't waste people's time. So make it so you want as much conversation as you can. You want, especially if you're hiring for an A player or a higher level position, you want to be having numerous interactions. So typically in the process that I teach, we are doing, there's the initial job posting. That's where the active part of the hiring process begins. The real process actually begins before that. We'll go into that in a moment. But we post the job post, we receive applications, we schedule pre-interview calls. These are shorter things to kind of, weed out the less good fits. And then we're doing, 3 to 4 additional long interviews in different settings. We want to see people on different days. We want to go out to lunch or dinner with people. We want to see how people interact with other people. We don't just want to be 100% interview. Also, it may not be appropriate. I've seen people interview people with lots of people in the room. That doesn't always give you the best sense of how someone's going to be. So we want to see how someone interacts with a group of people, but we also want to have our interviews where we're really pulling out who they are as a person, who they are as an employee, in a more maybe intimate type setting. Okay, so we want to be mindful of our hiring process, and then it doesn't end once you pick your candidate. You've got to make them an offer in the way they want, and they might say no. You might then need to move on to your next best choice. So you want to have a process that respects all the people who were in the process. And then you're still not done. Even once you made an offer and they accepted it, you want to have some sort of trial period with really good onboarding, because you could spend all this time and energy on a great hiring process and then you could blow your onboarding, and the best person might end up feeling like a fail because you kind of blew the beginning of the relationship when they started working there. So that we need to get all the way through the onboarding, through that initial period, and some sort of review and reconfirmation. Also, I didn't mention, because I have my notes in front of me, I love to have, when people come in, take a celebratory moment, really make them feel welcome. Okay. And one more mistake I have for you today is really, this is the most critical one. So many people are hiring. There's two situations, right? Either somebody left or you're creating a new role. And the tendency when somebody leaves is to just replace them, their exact job as it was. And when that's the case, when we don't have flexibility, when we don't take a moment to consider if their role was the right fit, right? There's still things that need to get done always in our businesses, in our organizations. But the people, each person is unique. Each person is going to have a different set of skills and abilities and talents to fill various roles. So just really rethinking, don't just cookie cutter, they left, we'll replace we'll replace Bill with Jane. Doesn't really work like that. So really thinking through what is the role, what is the human need you need to fill on your team? How will you rejuggle your team members if somebody's left recently, or about to leave? So really getting clarity on what it is you're trying to hire for. Don't assume you're just replacing somebody to do the same thing. It's not going to work out. No two humans are alike. So you're likely to end up making the mistake of having an unclear or inaccurate job description if you don't do that work when someone's leaving. Same problem of having an unclear, inaccurate job position when you are hiring for a new role altogether, because nobody has done it. And there's a big difference between setting up a new role and filling it long term. So you also might be making the mistake of not having the clearest, most accurate job description that you're trying to bring people in for. A fix for this type of new role is I like to recommend hire an expert or a fractional person who is really good at establishing things, setting things up. They're going to tend to be a little more expensive because it is a high value skill set and a more rare skill set, someone who can just like dive in and set everything up. Have that person basically set up what the role needs to be, set up the department, set up some of the processes, and then hire in your full-time long-term person to own that role. And that's going to be someone who's less of a like jump in and clean up the mess or figure things out person. That's going to be someone who's more like a maintain systems, refine systems, and maybe grow a whole department type person. So that's one way to make sure that you're getting kind of a clearer, more accurate role when you write that job description. All right, that's all I have for you today. Investing, though, in a great hiring process, as I said earlier, is going to save you so much money, time, energy, headache, emotional space. It is so worth it. Please don't cut corners. Oh, and I almost forgot. I said I would tell you one more thing. So when does the hiring process really begin? It begins today. You should always be keeping a list of people you would love to work with someday, right? And they may not be available when you have an opening, but they may. And those people might know more people like them because like people tend to hang out together, right? So if you take one thing away from today, take this thing that I almost forgot to tell you. Always be building your list of candidates who you think would be great fits to have on your team. Until next time, all the best.